How do you create a webinar where you handle every single objection that your prospects have, every single one of them? So I had this conversation with Usman, who we had a conversation via, Facebook on a live video, and he was asking me a couple of questions. It was an interview, and he wanted to understand how exactly we're able to remove every possible objection that people have on the webinar and get them to buy. By the way, if in case you don't know me, my name is Emmanuel Abolo. We help coaches to create high converting webinars, and we've been doing this for about 2 years now, and we have seen amazing results in terms of tripling conversions and all the likes, right? All those things, right? So I want to share with you this process that we use to get people to actually get higher conversions on their webinars and get more results. So watch this video. Don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel if this is on YouTube, you're seeing this, or share it, whichever is the case for you, and comment also your biggest takeaway. So watch this. I hope you find it extremely valuable. I did enjoy really sharing these deep secrets that we use, and I hope that you're able to find it valuable and also use it. See you in the video. Because the skill to actually sell via webinars is a lifelong skill that gets to live with you. You can use it when speaking in any form of one-to-many conversations, whether you're speaking to people on a live video, whether you're speaking via a sales video, a VSL, or whether you're even speaking via a sales copy, right? Most
Mhm.
sales copies are basically formatted in the form of webinars, which is giving value plus also making a pitch. So that's exactly what I specialize in. It's something I've been passionate about for a long time. I did a backtrack recently and discovered that I started speaking on stage from the age of 9. So
Wow.
and I had about 1,000 people or so in that hall where I was speaking on stage. I was very nervous, but I did it anyway. So, and even if my background has always been the fact that I had a speech difficulty, I spoke under my nose according to the way my parents told me then. But it's on the contrary, I found myself always having to influence people one to many, and that's why I'm passionate about what I do. And so that's me in a nutshell. Yeah, I help coaches with webinars, and I'm happy and excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Osman.
Dude, thank you for being honest and open, sharing that piece of vulnerability, right? I mean, uh, I think a lot of people are hiding that part of themselves back. For me personally, I had periods in my life where I was extrovert, talking with a lot of people, having a big uh, group. And then there were I remember ages where I was like, fuck people. I'm just gonna focus on this thing that I just discovered, and I'm gonna live a hermit lifestyle, and then come back out of it. I haven't shared it yet, so and you just sharing this, I think it puts the trust in people, right? Because you're
Yeah.
sharing something that most people want to, like, especially starting or bigger coaches are like, I shouldn't share my vulnerability. That makes me look weak. But
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
contrary.
It makes you look stronger, right? Because people can love to relate to people that are like them. Because everybody has weaknesses, right? But if you are too good to be true, nobody will believe you. That's the way humans work. So, and it's a very powerful tip on webinars too that we also use.
Exactly. Exactly. That was my question, right? So, how
Yeah.
would you suggest people to look on the webinars, to act, that kind of stuff? How should they start?
Yeah, so basically, for you to even have a webinar together, of course, there are different kinds of webinars. And the ones I focus on are sales webinars, which is a webinar where you have something to offer. You want to get people to take an action and buy something, right? And of course, I feel that's the most important, valuable kind of webinar. Why? Because nobody's lives change in a 45 minutes presentation or in a 45 minutes video or a 5 minutes video or 10 minutes video, right? People's lives only change when they're able to take consistent action in a system, right? So a webinar is an opportunity for you to reintroduce them to a system. So the first thing you want to have to do before you ever think of coming up with a webinar is to have a very clear offer that people will find valuable and that will give people a real result. Now, when you have an offer, your offer basically is like this famous marketer Sabisubi says. He says your offer is the tip of the spear of your sales message, right? So when you throw your sales message, is the offer that actually does the job and gets kills that enemy in quotes, which is maybe the problem or whatever it is that your client is facing. So you need a strong offer. If you have a strong offer, I would say you are 50% done in the webinar journey. Of course, there's a lot to do, right? But that is the main thing. So I think it starts from there. There. Once you have the offer, you now want to begin to ask yourself, what objections do people have about this offer? What is stopping them from taking this offer? Because like most people say, if you already, since you say you know what it takes to get XYZ results, you would have already gotten it, right?
Mhm.
The reason why you've not gotten this result is because you really don't know what you think you know. Right? Everybody knows that in order to lose weight, you should probably eat right, exercise right, rest right, and all those things. But not everybody loses weight. Why? Because it takes more than just basic information. It takes action, and action
Mhm.
requires system, and that's why um, you want to find out why are people not taking action? What's stopping them? Like, what are those objections? Those objections become the building blocks for what you teach on your webinar and get people to eventually take your offer. So if you can remove the obstacles from their way, they will say, "Oh, you've taken everything off. Now I don't find any reason not to do this, right?" And that's what you want to do in your webinar. You start with the offer, and then you move to the objections about the offer and create your teaching points around this. Yeah, and of course there are many other quite little building blocks around, but those are the major things. So that's what it takes to start a webinar.
Right. So you mentioned something powerful, right? At least I believe that's powerful. Is the spear tip your offer? And for people who are beginners, right? We got beginners in here. We got the people who are a bit advanced, people who are doing more than, let's say, 50K a month.
Yeah.
For the beginners, they have a lot of, they're like, should I niche down? Should I not niche down? If they're at
Mhm.
that stage, should they have a webinar or should they first focus on getting niche and the right offer?
So I will answer this from two ways right now. The first way I'm going to answer this from the perspective of expert advice when you are still in the beginning stage and you are still kind of trying to figure out who exactly your ideal client is and
Mhm.
what exact offer should you give, what price point should you charge, and all those things. um, I would say at that spot, from an expert point of view, don't really bother yourself about the webinar and focus more on getting clear on your offer, your message, who you are trying to speak to, and literally begin to get clients into the door and getting them results so that you can know the patterns around what kind of things, what kind of results they desire, what are the objections they had before they
Mhm.
sign you up, what are the objections they had while they signed you up, right? Make your client's acquisition journey a learning experience. Don't just do it. Learn while doing it, right? When you are serving your clients, discover what are all the questions they ask you. Document them. Why? Because when you transition to the point where you need to start making sales one to many, you would need those information that you gather along the journey. And if you do not document your journey, you miss out on all the lessons, right? So it's important. That's one way. And I'll say, don't do a webinar yet, just focus. But there's a second way to it, and people do it. I mean, it happens, so we can't deny it. That people literally start out with a webinar. And it's not a bad way. And the reason why I say so is because a webinar is more like one of the fullest form of a sales message you can ever build,
Mhm.
right? It has a powerful introduction which shows your ability to speak. It it has your stories, which allows you to think about your life stories, the stories that haunted you, the stories that you made you win. You can also borrow stories from experts who coached you and mentored you along the journey, which is being a reporter. It has content that gives value but doesn't give them the whole thing, right? So the and content that also makes them want to buy the offer. It has several parts of it which has questions. It also has a transition. It has an offer. It has a close. So it literally has everything. I mean, when I build webinar scripts for clients and they hire a copywriter afterwards,
Mhm.
who or a funnel builder, The copywriter literally says he did no work. He just literally took from the webinar script and created the copy because that's what it's meant to be. The webinar is more like a full sales machine. So it's possible for you to start from the webinar, but it will take you just a lot of effort and time. And the process of building your webinar, you will actually find yourself diving deep into more clarity, right? So when you begin to come up with your stories, when you begin to come up with your offer,
Mhm.
when you're trying to build all those things, because you know that on the webinar you must deliver one message. You cannot say two things. It's unlike having conversations with clients and you say this to this client and this to another client, and you're testing your price point, testing your message. But on a webinar, you don't have that luxury. You can say, oh, well, we have two possible price points. We have 2,500 and we have 7,500. We're not really sure what we are going to give you, but
Mhm.
whichever one, just speak to us and we'll tell you, right? You can't do that on a webinar. So building the webinar itself gives you a lot of clarity, right?
Right.
It makes you begin to question yourself. So I won't. That's why I won't say it's one way or the other. I would say do what you think would be best for you in terms of your goals. So if you are someone
Mhm.
who is not in a hurry to make so much money or to make money, and you have the luxury of time, maybe at a 9 to 5, you have a side hustle, and this is a business you are looking to build long term, and you're not really in a hurry. You are okay with spend that time. Then go ahead, build the webinar now. It might take you a month or two to get it all set and running if you are very good, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, do that. But if you are someone who needs money right now, you need money to feed next month, and
All
you
right.
want to do a webinar, it's taking some time. Yeah. So
So a
that's my
question,
take.
right? So let's
Yeah.
say someone is making on average between 20 to 40K, but it's like not consistent. And they want a passive sales page, or they want a landing page where people would come into, or they want like more elaborate way of having a webinar, a sales page, that kind of style going on. What is it that you could do for those people that are like, dude, I understand the power of webinar. It's
Mhm.
evergreen. You make it once and you get people watching it. You don't need to be on there. You don't need to do every story on every call, right?
Yeah.
When, like, how would that process look like if someone, like, let's say, someone wants your program, right? Somebody says, hey, you're good at this. I saw your testimonials. I saw your clients helping. How would they start with you?
Okay. So just to get the question correctly, you talked about are you talking about a landing page, like how to build a landing? Can you maybe rephrase the question a little bit
Yeah,
better?
so
So
like for the people who are like, oh yeah, webinar is what I need, so I can
yeah.
have it going on without me being on it.
Mm-hmm.
How would that process look like?
Okay. Yeah. So um, now, if you're going to work with me, there's a process, right? I walk people through, or I help people with.
Mhm.
Always, I would always start with what exactly is your offer and who is it for, because who we are speaking to, and then when we find out about that particular offer and who it is for, we dive deep into every single objection that they have about that offer, right? And we do that from if they have existing clients, which
Mhm.
usually is ideal because again on the webinar you also need case studies, and those case studies will come from existing clients. So when you don't have existing clients with no case studies, it becomes a
Mhm.
little bit difficult to really get so much conversions because you really can't do anything without that. So we look into every single case study and existing client that they have, go through all their testimonials. If we have to interview them, if we have to get them on calls, if we have to get them to shoot a video testimonial, if we have to get them to fill forms to give us data, we get all those data from them. That kind of gives us different um, different points of objection. So we categorize objection into three parts. Right. So we have internal objections, external, and we have objections about the vehicle. So I can't go into details of all that yet now.
Right, right.
But yeah. So
So you're
that's
actually, sorry for
yeah,
interrupting.
go
So you
ahead, go
actually
ahead.
do take them through an extensive structure to make sure that everything is aligned when the person watch goes through, then at the end, all objections are handled and ready to buy.
Exactly, exactly. To me, I feel that a webinar should remove 100% of objections. Now, literally not ideal and not feasible, right? Because you probably have 100 people watching at a time with different backgrounds, but we want to remove every possible objection we can think of throughout the webinar. And we do that strategically without them even knowing that we are doing it.
That's really powerful, because then it's going to save you on the sales calls to handle those objections.
Yeah, exactly. You literally have people who show up to your sales calls just ready to buy, and they don't really have any other objections. They just want to know how to pay. That's all. That's how it should be.
And that sounds really powerful, because I know that a lot of people uh, are seeing the same objections back and back, because I am coaching a couple people. I'm helping people out because they come to me for questions.
Yeah.
And you probably know this from your clients too. Most of the objection is like, well, can I think about it? Or I don't have the time for it. Or like, I have to ask my spouse. Like
Yeah.
these standard objections. So you're saying that with the system that you built, you're already handling all of those objections.
Yeah, so now, of course, there are different kinds of objections. When it comes to more decision-making objections, right?
Mhm.
Because there are two kinds of objections, right? There are mindsets, basically mindset objections around the offer, around the vehicle, around themselves, right? And also around the things they need to achieve the result. And then there are also decision-making objections, which are around money, around time, right? Around relationships. So when it comes to decision making objections, I think the best way to handle it is at the end of the webinar when you begin to take frequently asked questions. So
Mhm.
it's how you frame, basically reframing. You reframe it in a way to kind of qualify them before they get on the call with you. So it's more like your questionnaire, which in fact, I mean, your questionnaire should still you do it. I mean, you should do it double rather. You should have your you should handle those objections in the frequently asked questions part, and then you also
Mhm.
handle it when they are filling the questionnaire to kind of qualify them. Ask them why this is the best time, right? Ask them if they are
Wow.
so basically you've done it twice. It should not exist anymore. Right? If there is anything they need on the sales call with you, it will be for their own specific situation if it's going to work with their situation, right? Their specific scenario at this point in time. That should be all that you should be handling on the call.
I mean, this
Yeah.
structure that you just mentioned, I don't know if I find it very powerful, right? And I mean this seriously, because you're building systems in place, and by taking these people through them,
Yeah.
you disarm them. You build them up for the momentum in a positive way. It's like people say indoctrination is the wrong word. Like they see it as a yucky word. They're like, that's bad word.
Yeah.
But everything around us is indoctrinating, affecting us in certain way.
Exactly. I mean, yes, we are all indoctrinated, even if we refuse to accept it. We are all products of influence, so we can't really avoid that scenario rather for in our lives basically. Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're using that positive side, because the people that come onto the webinar are people who need that help.
Yes.
So you're
Exactly.
taking their fears, their worries, their blocks away, so they're ready to buy.
Exactly. Yeah, they are ready to buy. That's the point. That's the goal of the webinar. Literally, just to take away objections. It's like again because sales. That's what sales is, right? It's simply how do I remove every possible objection along the way so they just take action. Because I mean that's really all that's stopping them. If they do not have objection, they would have bought without a webinar, right? Or
And I
without a sales.
think that that's gonna a lot of people are going to love that for many reasons, but two of the main reasons, you don't need to quote unquote waste time on trying to convert, trying to show them the value. And secondly, the people that show up are going to have the energy, the mindset of, hey, I'm here for the solution, give it to me. And I think that's going
Yes.
to make everyone happy.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And mentioning the word happy, one thing I love about webinars is that you don't just handle objections in quotes. You actually give people real value, right? That people feel, you give people aha moments and they feel like, oh my god, this information is something that I was not expecting to get. I did not know this is the reason why I've been stuck. I did not know this is the reason why it has not been working for me, right? So people literally walk away with real value, and it just changes their mindset. And then even if they don't buy, for any reason they don't buy, they are forever grateful to you for the amount of information you gave them that they've not seen anywhere else, right? So that's a beautiful thing that we also do on webinars. And it's not just giving them information they can find with your competitors. You literally will talk about what your competitors say and why it doesn't work as well. So we call that the traditional way versus the new way, right? The traditional way is what other people say that and
Mhm.
why it doesn't work as well, and your own way, which is your system, and why it works effectively. You justify it, right? So it's part of those things that literally change the game for people who want to sell, right, via
Mhm.
webinars.
Uh, I think just from my experience, right?
Yeah,
What I mean, I have seen many webinars, and the webinars that did it really good was where you didn't feel like it was going into sales. It just happened. It flows so naturally. They're like, hey, if you're ready, we can now help you. You just have to click on this link. Versus other webinars, they're like giving you a bit of value, and then they're like cliffhanging, giving a bit value, cliffhanging, a bit of a value, like that annoyed states where you're watching your favorite thing and YouTube is like ad, and you're like, I can't skip.
yeah.
And then they're
It- it-
like, buy us, and I'm like, no.
no, no
Like,
way.
like,
Right.
so the way you just described, right? That way makes me as a viewer be like, wow, I got so much value out of it. I wonder what's on the back end.
Exactly, right? Because again, a webinar is also a way to introduce people into how you actually deliver value, right? If you can't deliver value on the webinar, I have no guarantees you can deliver value in your main program or your course or whatever it is you are selling. So a webinar also shows people how you teach, right? It
Mhm.
shows them when you have a structure, it shows them that you have a structure. When you have a system, it shows them you have a system. But when you are, even if you are trying to deliver value and you are randomly teaching and you are picking this
Mhm.
point and this point and there's no organization, it also tells people a lot about what your program is about and shows that you are not really an expert, you are just quote unquote an imposter trying to be an expert. So it's
Right.
all these things are very, very, very important when it comes to building out a webinar. And like you said, you don't want it to you don't want people annoyed, right? You want people to feel like, in fact, there's a way we do it, right? We actually tell people that by the end of our session, did you learn anything today? Right? If you left this free training, masterclass, webinar, and if you left this webinar, do you feel like you have things that you can implement and start
Mhm.
getting results? And if they don't say yes, we have done a bad job, right? We want the power to make decisions in the hands of the people who are actually on the webinar. We literally give them the power. We give them the power to say no to us, right?
Mhm.
And if they don't say no, we know we have done a good job. So you want to be that good that people you do not have to make people tell you you did a good job. You want them to say you did a good job, even if like you don't ask for it. And it's
Right.
just a powerful place to be, really.
And I think that's when you're in that place, the sales is going to be very easier because you don't have to quote unquote like beg for it. They're going to be like, hey, I see you're transforming so many life. I see the result, your system. like the value that you gave upfront without even asking for it. That's all
Yeah.
like the check marks to a person who's like, here's my credit card.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's sales is just going to be natural, and it becomes very easy for people to buy. Because I mean, literally, you've um you've just built great relationships with them all through that period. You've had conversations with them. You've had a little bit of back and forth, even
Mhm.
if it's evergreen, right? You can
Right.
have back and forth, and because you kind of know what to expect, you ask them questions and you know what to
Mhm.
expect. And if you use some software, you can easily approve comments later on. So you have those comments popping in, which are response. So it's just really a powerful way.
I want to thank you for coming here, sharing this valuable, because I definitely learned from, and I know that people that are going to watch, a lot of them are going to watch the replay. They comment on it because that's what always happens, and that's what I want for you. But to give those people more value, right? What, where can they find you? And do you have an offer that they can reach out and ask you for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you want to find me, one way to find me is on Facebook. So, if you have, since you're on Facebook, I believe that the fastest will be through the easiest method you could find me, which is Facebook, Emmanuel Apollo, just as the name is. Just find me, and you can send me a friend request. I will accept, and send me a message, and we'll connect. And in terms of offers, I have one of the ways, depending on what stage you are in, maybe you are in the stage where you are still trying to learn as much as you can with webinars, which is fine. Say everybody starts somewhere. I have a number of products I've been able to create. They are free, by the way. We have one on ads where we literally broke down every kind of ads you need for your webinar, from your replay ads to your all your reminder ads and all those. I will break them down. We have a document on it. It's quite so a bulky,
Wow.
not really bulky so much, but we have that is available. You can send me a message and just send me the word webinar ads. I will understand and I'll send you that. And if also you want a breakdown of a particular webinar ad that we ran that generated over 30,000 leads for us in 2020, right? For that particular webinar, just say webinar copy, right? And I'll send you that particular breakdown. And then I also have a document that details the process of increasing conversions on the webinar. So that's also I just webinar conversions. And I think those three are good enough for now. We have quite a lot, but if you want any of those three, and then if you are further along the journey where you actually need somebody to help you to craft your webinar to convert and get you more clients, more sales, and push you to that seven-figure, $1 million mark, right? Which is our goal with our webinars. Within the space of 12 months, and you can reach out to me and just say you want to work with me, very straightforward, and you want to know how exactly we do that, and we'll have a conversation and get on a call, and we'll tell you all about what it entails, if you're the right fit, and if you're also the right fit for you. So that's the process. That's how, if you want to just learn the processes, we have free, free
Mhm.
documents. Like I say, you can
Right.
send me webinar ads for the ad, webinar copy for the copy breakdown, and webinar conversions for the conversions document. And if you want to work with me one on one, we have just send me you want to work with me, and I'll definitely shoot you how that goes, and we can talk from there. Right, that's it for
Uh,
now.
Dude, so your first freebie, it's a very extensive document. You're breaking them, the ads down. You're helping them. What I mean, that's like paid product for most people. They like pay for that thing, and you're giving
Yeah,
it for free. I
yeah,
think
for
you're doing a
sure.
very good job there. Thank you for being generous. It was an honor to have you in here.